Let's talk about Fanbrain. So this morning I saw a post by an indie dev and he said, my game's going to be the best game because I use AI to generate 100 million, billion, trillion, zillion galaxies. You'll never run out of planets to explore in my space game because I use AI to generate it infinitely. And that reminded me of Watch Dogs Legion, where the whole shtick was that they were simulating every Londoner and you could hire any of 10 billion Londoners and they would generate an infinite number of Londoners for you to hire, and that was supposed to be fun. And that reminded me of the fact that I played Oblivion a little bit earlier today, and Todd, when he was talking about these games back in ye old days, kept saying things like, we invented a new kind of AI, radiant AI. It will generate an infinite number of quests, so the game will never get boring because there will always be more quests to do. You can play our games forever. Infinite content has been a topic for a lot of game devs back to the beginning. And I think it might be worse now, not just because AI, but also because of No Man's Sky, which took this concept and then got really, really lucky with it. And people think they can find the same success. But here's the issue. That is all ass backwards. That is Fanbrain. This morning, I had a really good banana. It looks like a hot pepper, but it was a banana. You have to trust me, it wasn't a hot pepper. And so I went out and I bought 100,000 more bananas so that I could have 100,000 times better time eating a banana. Obviously, that's friggin' stupid, right? Because the whole reason I enjoyed the banana was because I was hungry. The banana on its own does not have very much meaning. It's the fact that it can sate your hunger that has meaning. The hunger is what gives the banana meaning. And it's the same with all of these things. If you really loved Mass Effect and exploring that galaxy, you might come away with it as a fan thinking that what you want to do is explore more planets, because Mass Effect had you exploring planets and you really enjoyed that, and you wished that Mass Effect had let you explore more planets. So obviously, the best version of Mass Effect would be more planets to explore. But Mass Effect made you want to explore the planets. That was what made Mass Effect good at that. And it's same with, RPGs, any RPG where you do the side quests and you're excited to explore the world and meet the people in the world and, do things for them and with them. Yeah, you don't want an infinite number of quests. You might think you do if you're a fan that doesn't think about it too hard. But the RPG's strength was that it made you want to do those quests, not that it put those quests in. The more content you add to your game, the more hunger you have to build in order to meet that content. If you have more content than you have hunger, then you're going to end up with a game that feels bloated and bad, and people are going to not want to play it. And that's really not great when you're generating an infinite amount of content, right? Now, we could talk a little bit about No Man's Sky, which is the Fanbrain game that made it big. Congrats to the No Man's Sky devs for their success, which is an incredible long shot. But No Man's Sky, successful or not, is not really very popular. People sometimes play it when they get hungry to explore space from day to day and they decide they want to drop in for another hour or two, play No Man's Sky once every couple of weeks, once every couple of months. Yeah, I get it. But they're not just sitting there, churning through No Man's Sky's endless planets because exploring the planets is fun on its own. They come in when they want to explore planets. They explore planets briefly, and then they go away again. That's very different from something like Mass Effect, where if you sit down to play Mass Effect, it will make you want to explore the planets. That's literally what the game devs sat down to make you want to do. A game dev makes players hungry. A fan tries to satiate the player, because a fan remembers being hungry and then being satiated, and they don't realize that the first part is critical, so they just do the second part. If we want to talk a little bit more about Oblivion, you can see this in the way that the Oblivion levels are created compared to Skyrim. And yeah, I'm talking about the Oblivion remaster, but the level design is largely the same. So in the Oblivion remake, they have a city that you meet almost immediately, and it looks something like this. When there's roughly 900,000 places you can go inside the city. There's more city than you could ever want. But the problem is, Oblivion doesn't generate very much interest in city faffing around. There's really not much to do in a city in Oblivion. Skyrim, on the other hand, the cities look like this. And they specifically direct you to leave the city and go do other shit, because Skyrim understood that they could not generate enough hunger to make a large city worthwhile. So their largest cities are the size of one sector of this giant Oblivion city. And that was a brilliant idea, because the amount of hunger that Skyrim can generate for a city is not any greater than the amount of hunger that Oblivion could generate for a city. But by scaling back the city, you can make sure that you don't bloat the player with city stuff. You make them hungry, they come in, they get a little bit of city, and then they leave. Moreover, in Skyrim and many other successful RPGs, when you're in the city, the game is trying to make you hungry for the wilderness. They talk up the wilderness. They say, oh, did you hear about that thing that happened southwest of here? Or did you hear about that distant shrine that got set on fire? Or I've heard that there's a storm coming from the east. Anything to make you want to go and investigate outside the city. They're drumming up your hunger for the wilderness outside the city. And when you're out in the wilderness, you're collecting tons of junk and things that you need to take back to cities. Generating hunger for the city. The dynamic is to generate the hunger. You do not want more content than you have hunger. It is actively bad to have too much content, because your players can't eat that much. So you need to study how you're going to make your players want to eat before you try and force feed them an infinite number of planets and an infinite number of galaxies and an infinite number of quests. Ask yourself, how in the world are they going to be hungry enough to eat this? And if your answer is, well, every couple of weeks they'll probably feel like vaguely playing this kind of game and I guess they'll stop in, that's the No Man's Sky approach, and No Man's Sky is already there, so what are you trying to do? Don't get misled into Fanbrain where you get cause and effect backwards. Your main goal as a dev is to generate the hunger, not to satiate the hunger. Okay? Have a good one.